I learned to put binding on quilts long ago, and I have a method that I use, and I pretty much use the same method anytime that I'm putting binding on a quilt. And I thought I would just do the very end, the connecting of the binding pieces together for this little video, because I think I already have one about adding the binding. Here's a flower hug that I have put the binding all the way around, and we need to connect these two edges. So I'm going to show you really quick how I do that on every type of quilt. You can use this on any quilt. So let's see. Okay, this is where my binding starts. This is where I started sewing. So I sewed down and around and back to the very top, went to the corner and stopped just right there. So I have a good sizable hump there, maybe 12, 14 inches. I'm going to, first of all, lay this part back, take this ending section, and I always try to make my bindings long enough so that I have a nice ending section. Take a square ruler, and I lay the ruler so that the diagonal 45-degree line is right there on the bottom of this extra piece of binding. And then I'm going to use my rotary cutter and cut it off. And then pull this over, pull this piece up, and open this up. I'm going to lay this piece just right on top of this. It's kind of hard, I guess, because it's not very long here. And then I'm going to take a marker. I'm using a friction marker this time. Sometimes I use a blue marker. And I am just going to mark right here on the bottom layer of binding. I'm just going to make a line where this is. Pull that back and you can see there's half of a line there. And if I wanted to, and I think I might have used to, go ahead and extend that line, but I don't need to anymore. I just take the line, take my ruler, and I lay my ruler so that it's along the one edge of this length of binding. I lay this line here, the 1/2 inch line, on the red line that I just did. You don't want to cut on the red line, because if you cut on the red line, you're not going to have enough for seam allowance. And then trim right here. And hope that you trim it right. Well, shoot. Trim right there. Throw that to the side. And then you just take this piece, and you stick them together with a pin or two. You should have your triangles sticking out on the corner. I usually match them up in the middle. I'm going to take this to the sewing machine, and I'm going to sew with probably a little smaller stitch, like a 2.0 stitch, just right along here. And then we'll see how nicely they go together. Okay, I've sewn the two pieces together, and I'm going to flip right side out. I usually lay it right where it's supposed to go, and I often will, with my fingers, just press the seam open so I can lay it, and it just fits really nicely along the side of the quilt. I add a few pins, and then I'm going to stitch this down. I often trim that off just so that it's not going to be in the way. And then we're ready to turn our binding around to the back and press it and stitch it. I hand stitch mine, but Okay, I have sewn this binding down now on this edge. And like I said, I usually cut these off, but then I can take this to the ironing board, press it down, and it's ready to be stitched. And you can use this on any quilt, same way, as long as you leave 5 to 10 inches extra so that you can trim it. Look how nice it does. Very quick connecting.